to the Autistic Culture Podcast, where we celebrate autistic contributions to society and culture.
Join us every Tuesday as we dive into everything from famous autistics in history to the pop culture, unique passions, and the special interests that define our community.
Whether you're autistic or love someone who is, welcome to Autistica. We're your hosts, Dr. Angela Kingdon, the linguistic autistic,
and Matt Lowry, licensed psychological practitioner. Join us as we explore the values, traditions, and identity of Autistica. Episode 111, Sonic the Hedgehog is Autistic. Hey, Angela.
Hey, Matt.
Oh, man.
What you got today?
So, over the weekend, my son hit an important autistic developmental milestone.
Oh,
we were out shopping at Target, and I said, hey, do you want to get a toy? You can get any toy you want. And he looked at me and smiled, and he said, want Sonic the Hedgehog toy. He's finally
he's graduated past Peppa Pig? I thought it was only Peppa Pig toys.
It was only Peppa Pig for a very long time, but apparently somebody at school had Sonic the Hedgehog, and he is very, very into Sonic the Hedgehog at the moment.
All right.
So,
this is so good. You get to relive your youth through your child.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I was there in the beginning, and I was one of the original Sonic the Hedgehog kids. And I didn't realize that, I realized a few years ago when I was working in the schools that I think that every autistic kid goes through a Sonic the Hedgehog phase. So today we are going to talk about the weird history of Sonic the Hedgehog. We're going to have a mystery sidebar, and then we are going to talk about why Sonic the Hedgehog appeals to autistic kids.
Okay, I'm excited.
It is going to be a wild ride, much like Sonic himself.
It just doesn't seem that wild. I can't imagine how this is going to be.
Oh.
But I'm here for it.
It's going to be.
I mean, I obviously know Sonic. I've bought Sonic T-shirts for my child, but I really haven't spent as much time thinking about Sonic as I have Pokemon or something. So
yeah, well, today we're going to figure out why. We're going to see which character was originally created as a Nike mascot. We're going to talk about why Sonic the Hedgehog ties into the 26th president of the United States, and we're going to talk about how McDonald's changed everything.
Okay, well, that has to be a Happy Meal segue.
It's going to be a Happy Meal, but it's going to be trippy.
All right, I'm here for it.
So
Where do
first
we
of all,
dive me in.
Part 1, the Book of Genesis.
That's not the Book of Genesis.
Yes.
Matt is holding up on the screen, which, by the way, if you go to autisticculturepodcast.com, you could watch this on video. Matt is holding up some sort of old school 16-bit Sega Genesis game from 1988, I think.
The 90s. But this machine was the first 16-bit graphic game machine. And
is that a 16-bit graphic game machine, or are you just happy to see me?
And that's the thing. That's why Sega needed a new mascot, because in the early days, of course, there was the Atari 2600 and the 4800. They had such hits as Pong and also E.T. and several others. But then the Nintendo Entertainment System came along in 8-bit and revolutionized everything. And Sega came out with their Master System, also in 8-bit. And their mascot for the Master System was Alex Kidd in Miracle Land. And while it was a very bright game, it didn't really have the speed of Mario. And they realized that Mario really, really had a grapple on the game system dynamics there. So they really wanted to do something better than Mario for their next take. So when they were working on the Sega Genesis, they realized they needed a brand new character, a dynamic character that captured the imagination and wanted every kid worldwide to get really, really into the Sega Genesis, right? Mm-hmm. So they had an internal contest to try to come up with who they thought, what sort of mascot would be on this brand new system, right?
Yep.
So one person in particular came up with the ideal character. He had attitude. He was round. He moved fast. Do you know who this character was?
Round. Cubert? No. No. I don't know.
He was
Sonic?
Teddy Roosevelt.
No.
So they were going to make a game based on Teddy Roosevelt.
Oh my God. Okay, wait, you guys. There is on the video, it is 100% Teddy Roosevelt, and yet it is also a round, roly-poly, mustache bedecked clown character with some sort of kanji script underneath it. I don't know what is happening. It's breaking my brain.
So they were going to make a game based on Teddy Roosevelt. And then they said, no, Teddy Roosevelt. But they really liked the character of round, happy Teddy Roosevelt running around. So they were going to, we'll come back to that in a moment. Okay. So they decided to work on it a little more, and they decided to go with a little blue woodland creature.
Okay.
Which would be?
That's Sonic.
A rabbit.
Oh.
And this creature would move really, really fast, and you'd run through the game, but you would have to stop and pick up stuff with your ears.
Okay.
And they said, no, that really, really throws off the play dynamic, because if you move fast, stop. Move fast, stop. We can't be doing that. Okay. So we need a character that moves fast and really dynamic. And that character became a hedgehog.
Okay.
And that character was named
Sonic?
Mr. Needlemouse.
No, Mr. Needlemouse is not a good name.
Mr. Needlemouse the Hedgehog. So they came up with Mr. Needlemouse the Hedgehog. And then somebody said, no, he needs to go fast, like, a little supersonic jet. So they started referring to him as Supersonic.
Ooh,
and then just Sonic.
The S is for super and the O is okay. Anyway,
exactly. So in Japan they came up with Sonic the Hedgehog, and in Japan he was going to fight the inevitable villain. You know who the villain would be, right?
Hitler?
Who is the guy that would inevitably be the villain for a hedgehog? In a fast-moving game.
A lawnmower guy? A guy with a lawnmower?
They were going to go with...
It's going to be...
Oh, hold on.
We're going to hopefully screen share this if you're watching the video.
Teddy Roosevelt!
Well, he is a villain. I'm not going to lie. He is, except for the park services.
That's where we came up with the teddy bear, because he refused to murder a bear that was chained to a tree. Because they were like, hey, we know you love to murder things. Here's a bear. Yeah. So, fun fact, Teddy Roosevelt carved his own face into the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, he's like, I got nothing better to do. Let me go do some carving.
He did it himself. Chiseled it with
is that
other
really
humans.
True?
No, I'm making that up.
Oh, okay.
But everything else is true. The weird stuff. So Teddy Roosevelt in Japan became the rotund Dr. Eggman, because he looked like an egg. Mm-hmm. But when they were
Eggman, I am the walrus, cuckoo, cuckoo. Sorry, I'm apparently doing a lot of vocal stimming today. Indeed. I'll be singing a lot of this episode.
So when they brought him to Sega of America said that they wanted to change a few details about this.
Okay, just one or two. Yes.
Number one, Sonic needed to be more hip. So they wanted to give him Michael Jackson shoes, because who else was hipper in the 1990s than Michael Jackson? So Sonic the Hedgehog got these big red and white Michael Jackson shoes. Okay. Also, his girlfriend was going to be Madonna, the pop singer.
Sonic's girlfriend was going to be like a hedgehog Madonna?
No. Blonde, hot woman, human woman.
Ambitious?
Named Madonna. And then Sega of Japan said, no, let's not do that. And they said, all right, but we don't like the name of this Dr. Eggman. Let's change him to Dr. Ivo Robotnik, because his whole shtick was capturing innocent, fluffy woodland creatures, sticking them into robots, and that he is a Robotnik. So that became his name in America. Rather than being on planet Earth, they changed it to Planet Mobius, because when Sonic runs really fast, his feet become an infinity loop, like a Mobius loop. So
Mm-hmm.
he became Dr. Ivo Robotnik, and they changed his origin in a U.S. comic that is linked to in the show notes, where Sonic was originally a little blue hedgehog who met up with Dr. Kintobar
Mm-hmm.
and accidentally became blue by running on a cosmic treadmill like the Flash. But he ran too fast and there was an explosion. And Dr. Kintobar was working on these things called the Chaos Emeralds.
Okay.
And he was going to use the Chaos Emeralds to seal away all of the evil of the planet Mobius. And then there was an explosion where the evil turned him into Dr. Robotnik. And that's why Dr. Robotnik became evil initially. And this is the whole reason why Sonic has to collect the Chaos Emeralds in order to save the planet Mobius and save all the little animals from his friend turned enemy turned frenemy, Dr. Kintabar Robotnik kind of thing.
Got it. Okay, I'm
So,
following now.
so
Now we're
we
back in the
so
land
we
of the
we
normal.
started off with the Sonic game, and again, the original plan for the Sonic game was that you were going to go through the level kind of slowly and learn all the twists and turns. And the Genesis was neat in that it allowed you to go into a circle and have these loops and these things that Nintendo could not do with the NES. So again, the Mario games are pretty structured, they're pretty square, but Sonic got to do all sorts of neat new tricks that wouldn't be available until the Super Nintendo came out like a year later. But
Okay.
for the time being, but anyway, when they gave these to the kids decided, yeah, we're going to skip that slow tutorial part and just blast on through it. And you became a blur going through all these, going through the loops, launching in the air, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, blasting through walls. It was an instant hit. And overnight, Sonic became an international sensation. And
I
then
was
they
suddenly
decided,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, so they said, oh, immediately we have to come up with Sonic 2. So they came up with Sonic 2, and Sonic would have a little sidekick named Miles Prower, who went by the nickname Tails because he was a fox with two tails. And it was great because Tails could fly with his two tails. He also flew a biplane and could take Sonic places. And if you plugged in a second controller and had a little sibling, Tails couldn't die. So Tails could play along with you and run into all these enemies and everything and never actually die, which is good for a second player if you had a little sibling.
Okay.
So by this time, it was fantastic. Sonic became a sensation by 1992. They started to work on extra stuff. They started to get the bug, the merchandising bug. So
I'm
they
familiar.
they went to DIC, DIC, the international animation company, known for making all sorts of cartoons like Inspector Gadget, the Real Ghostbusters, the Littles, all sorts of other. In the industry, they said that DIC stood for Do It cheaply.
Oh,
So
okay.
they had a habit of underbidding other animation studios. There was a whole big thing between Haim Saban and Jean Chalopin. It
Mm-hmm.
was a whole that deserves an episode in itself, but not of this episode because I don't think
Okay.
either of them are autistic. But
Not of this show.
yeah,
It deserves an episode of some other podcast. Somebody
yes,
do it.
yes.
Okay.
But so they went to ABC and said, "Hey, we'd like to do the same kind of deal we had with Ghostbusters, where we have a syndicated show and a Saturday morning show." And
Mm-hmm.
ABC said, "Wow, that's a terrible idea. We absolutely do not agree to that." So they said, well, what if we tweak it a little bit? What if we do a syndicated show that's sort of the Sonic the Hedgehog and a Saturday morning show that's also Sonic the Hedgehog, but set in a completely different continuity with a different animation style? And
Mm-hmm.
they said, all right, we'll go with that. So the two shows became Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, a wacky syndicated show that featured Dr. Robotnik and two robot villains fighting Sonic and Tails every day. And it aired 5 days a week in syndication. And then the Saturday morning show became an intricately animated dystopian nightmare show, also featuring Sonic and Tails, but Dr. Robotnik had already overthrown the planet Mobius and
Mm-hmm.
thrown everything into disarray, built Robotnik Land, and turned everything into an industrialist nightmare. And Sonic and Tails were freedom fighters helping Princess Sally Acorn restore the planet Mobius.
Love it. A
So
plus. No
it
notes.
so that show became known as Sat AM because Saturday morning,
No.
and
Okay.
it was a prolific show. So and of course, which black autistic character can you name off the top of your head
Black autistic character.
from all of media, not just Sonic the Hedgehog? What is the most famous?
Urkel?
Yes, Urkel. Yes.
Okay, correct.
Yes.
Got it.
So
I know
they
my
dec-
people.
they
I find my
decided
people.
they decided to get Urkel, Julia White, to voice Sonic the Hedgehog in both of these shows. And
I
the
did
rest
not
of it,
know that.
yeah, the rest of the shows had completely different voice casts. Jim Cummings was the voice of Dr. Robotnik in Sat AM. He's done other voices like Darkwing Duck, Winnie the Pooh. He's in like everything. But I can't remember who did him on the Adventures because I never watched it because it was really, really loosely done, where they had gigantic exaggerated proportions and had like kind of rubber bandy sort of proportions. But again, the Sat AM had really, really tight anime-esque animation, and it was really, really influential. So much to the point that they planned on it going on for much longer, but then we'll come to that in a moment. So around this time, again, the merchandising bug hit. So they decided they needed a brand new character. Sonic was blue, right? Because he was fast and it was like with the Genesis logo. And the opposite color of blue is orange. So that's why Tails is orange. And they decided they needed another character to balance everything out. So they were going to have a cross-promotional sort of thing with a major company, and that was going to be the third new character. So they decided to go, because Sonic had these bright red shoes, right? They decided to go with a shoe company named Nike.
Okay,
and they were going,
this is all making sense. Oh, capitalism.
And they were going to have Nike the Echidna. And Nike the Echidna was going to be red and have a Nike swoosh on his chest.
Oh.
But the deal fell through.
Okay.
So he became Knuckles the Echidna. And his swoosh became just like a sort of a boomerang shape. So Knuckles the Echidna was red and became the balance to that. And they introduced Knuckles the Echidna in Sonic 3. Sonic 3 was the follow-up to...
I feel like I might have stepped on that little cartridge. It just literally, I saw it and the bottom of my foot hurt because I think I've stepped on all of those.
It could very well be.
Is that what happens? They end up on the floor?
Sonic 3 was one of the best-selling cartridges of all time. And it had a lot of reasons for it because, number one, it was the follow-up of the biggest hits of Sonic and Sonic 2. Number two, it was in the middle of this great zeitgeist. And number three, it had a mystery artist, and a lot of the music was composed by none other than Michael Jackson. So we're going to talk about Michael Jackson.
Are you okay? Are you okay, Sonic? Sonic, are you okay?
We'll talk more about Michael Jackson in the second part. But before we get there, we've got to talk more about the limitations of Sonic, because this is only half of a game.
That's only half
so
of a game.
They were in development for Sonic 3, and they had a hard deadline, not because of their own issues, but because they had a deal with McDonald's for a McDonald's Happy Meal.
I remember this. I drove through for that, baby. I remember it.
Yes, they had 4 toys from Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and they absolutely had to meet the deadline for the Happy Meal toys, which is the same thing we kind of talked about with the development of Batman Returns, that everybody was very down on Tim Burton because, you know, he wasn't Happy Meal friendly with his movie. So they decided to cut the game in half, so to meet the demands of McDonald's. But they didn't want to give up on the other half, so they came up with an ingenious solution: a second cartridge that locks on to the first cartridge to make an entire game.
Yeah,
And it is
brilliant.
so cool, and it is one of my favorite. It's nothing has ever been done like this before, with the second cartridge that bolts onto the first cartridge, and in doing so it lets you play as Knuckles all throughout Sonic 3 and retroactively Sonic 2. So you can go back to old games and play new content that wasn't in there. In any other Genesis game, you plug it on there and get to play a new Sonic level. So
Right.
it was a really, really cool idea, and it I mean, honest to God, it blew my 12-year-old mind at the time, because I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. So you have Sonic 3 and Knuckles is now a brand new addition to the Sonic canon. They were going to introduce him to the Sat AM show, but you remember how Sonic or Sega of America and Sega of Japan had some different ideas about how Sonic should be portrayed?
Yep. Yep.
Well, Sega of America, unlike Nintendo, because Deke also did the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and they were very, very loose with the canon. Nintendo learned early on, between Super Mario Brothers Super Show and the Bob Hoskins movie, that they needed to, have tighter quality control over their creative products, which is why it took so long to get the animated Super Mario Brothers movie. But Sega had the tight reins from the beginning, and it turns out that somebody at Deke was selling animation cells that contractually belonged to Sega. They were sort of not paying attention to the finer details of the fine print. So despite Sat AM being incredibly popular, they decided to shut it down.
Okay.
And it went on to have another life
Issues.
in Archie Comics with the same continuity as the Sat AM show. And the Sonic comics went on for another 24 years.
Wait, were these like books that were released or like in the newspaper? Where were these comics?
You don't
TV
know
show.
what comic books are? What?
No, comic books. No, I didn't know if you meant comic
Oh.
strips.
Oh, no.
Actual books. Yes,
Actual
I
comic
saw
books. Yes.
Yes.
So Archie Comics, which had a long history with Ninja Turtles, it was great. That actually produced more Ninja Turtles comics than the Ninja Turtle comics people at Mirage. But anyway,
Wow.
they went on for another 24 years of making these really impressive Sonic comics. But due to a lawsuit with one of the creators who created something like 50 characters for the Sonic universe, again, due to fine print, turns out he owned like 50 Sonic characters. Sega of America didn't. They had a big falling out, and they canceled the comic. But during that time, they had a host of other Sonic games, including Sonic CD, Sonic Advance 1 and 2, Sonic Boom, Sonic Colors, Sonic Evolution, lots and lots and lots of other comics. They had another cartoon show called Sonic Underground, where Knuckles the Echidna was played by Brian Drummond, who also did the Ocean dub version of Vegeta for Dragon Ball. So if you can imagine Knuckles, the energy of Knuckles the Echidna mixed with the energy of Vegeta Princess Saiyans, that's a pretty good reason to have a show right there. I like that. He should have had his own show, drop the other rock band aspect altogether. But they later had a really, really excellent show called Sonic Boom. It lasted for 2 seasons, around 100 episodes. It was way better than it had any business being. I think the writers got way too free reign on there, and it has some really it has some jokes in there that you would not expect out of a kid's cartoon. It strikes you up the head sideways, and then you're like, I appreciate this on a deep level. And then, of course, comes the Sonic movies, where the Sonic the Hedgehog 1 was going to be destined to be just as bad as literally every other video game movie ever, until they released the trailer with the... have you seen Ugly Sonic?
Ugly Sonic, no.
Okay, so the first trailer had the song "Gangsta's Paradise" with this creepily anthropomorphic hedgehog. It does not look like this, because Sonic is a big ball with big eyes and everything. They wanted to make him look photorealistic for a human world with human teeth and human eyeballs. And it was straight out of the uncanny valley. It was horrifying. And it lasted one trailer, and the internet in unison said, "Oh God, no. Oh God, no." And the uproar was so intense that the studio said, "All right, we'll postpone this for about 6 months. We'll redo all of the Sonic scenes and reanimate everything with Sonic the Hedgehog to make it look more like this little guy."
Okay.
And in doing so, it was actually a pretty good movie. Sonic 2 was better than Sonic 1, but Sonic 3 was really, really good. And not just from a personal level, like Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, even the critics agreed that it was a very, very good video game movie. They had, what was it, Charlene O'Shaughnessy? I can't remember her name, from the video games. She did Tails in the video games, so she did Tails in the movie. Ben Schwartz from Parks and Rec and a bunch of other stuff did Sonic the Hedgehog, because John Ralphio as Sonic the Hedgehog, you can't mesh up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And Idris Elba does Knuckles the Echidna. So just listening to Knuckles with Idris Elba's, distinct voice, it gives, and he got it his own Paramount Plus show. It was really good. Everything about this is back in full swing. And again, we come back to my recent story, because when my son got a whole bunch of nano Sonic the Hedgehog figures, he picked up the box and started reading off the names. Knuckles the Echidna, Dr. Eggman, Metal Sonic, Amy Rose, and then all these people are his best friends now. So I put in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, so he could watch that. And he was just enthralled, because he was like, "There's Sonic, there's Tails, there's Eggman, there's Knuckles," because these are immediately identifiable characters. They're bright, they're shaped very
sort of
clearly.
Simple. Yeah,
Yes.
that's it. You can look at them and you know what you're seeing.
Because the animators behind the Flintstones, Hanna-Barbera, once said that the hallmark of a great cartoon character is the ability to recognize it immediately from silhouette. This is the reason the Simpsons have such clear designs. Bart has his spiky hair. Lisa has the star-shaped hair. You can tell exactly from the silhouettes who these characters are. And you can do the same with the Sonic characters. Sonic has the spikes. Tails has the two tails and the ears. Knuckles also has spikes, but big punching knuckles. It's very bright. It's very colorful. And Sonic 3 is set in England with the London Tower Bridge and all sorts of other things that my son really digs. So,
do you want to take a break?
Let's take a break now before we get into the weird history of Sonic the Hedgehog and Michael Jackson.
Sounds weird.
Hey, clinicians. Are you looking for an affirming way to assess autism and ADHD that bridges the gap between self-identification and formal testing? NeuroPebble's diagnostic assessment training for master's level clinicians is here to help you confidently navigate assessments. This course prioritizes lived experience and understanding the nuances in the diversity of traits. You can even get 7 CEUs if you need them. Start today at bit.ly/neuropebble and take the first step towards transforming your practice. At NeuroPebble, every idea is a pebble that paves the path to a more neurodivergent, affirming world. Go to bit.ly/neuropebble to learn more. We are back, and we are talking about the weird history of Sonic the Hedgehog, why autistic people love Sonic the Hedgehog, and in this segment we are going to talk about the history of Sonic the Hedgehog and Michael Jackson. And also, I love that Simon has the sound effects. I can't wait to see what sound effects we have for the Lena Dunham episode.
Probably not many. I don't know.
It's going to be great.
Yes.
So anyway, there's Michael Jackson loved the Sega Genesis.
Well, listen, Michael Jackson loved video games. So not everybody knows this about me. Michael Jackson was one of my first autistic special interests.
Go for it.
And it all happened when the Thriller album came out, which was huge. So this was about, 10 years before Sonic. I want to say it was 83. My parents it was the age of let's get physical, Olivia Newton-John. They were very into aerobics, and they would go to their gym, and I was like a fat kid and they wanted me to exercise. So they had this idea they would bring me to their gym and I could go to aerobics with them, which I mostly did not want to do. But in the aerobics room, there was a staircase. And under the staircase, you know where Dobby lives, in the little house under the staircase?
So does Harry Potter, but go on.
Yeah, Harry Potter lives there. Yes, exactly. That space was open. In the aerobics, outside of the aerobics room, there was a space. And I had a Sony Walkman with a cassette tape of Thriller. And instead of going to aerobics during aerobics class, I would sit under the staircase where no one could see me, and I would rock and I would listen obsessively to Michael Jackson and then read all of the liner notes, which led to me having to watch every video. And they were like all the first videos, but only my grandmother, my autistic grandmother, had cable. So I had to go to my autistic grandmother's every day, and we would play museum with her cut glass. She would line up her cut glass in different combinations, like by country it was designed in, or by design, or whether it was depressed glass or carnival glass. And then
That's the thing neurotypicals do.
That's a thing neurotypicals do. And then after we took her display cases and reorganized the cut glass and played museum, then I would get to go watch Michael Jackson videos, which is very exciting, on MTV. Anyway, I could tell you so many things about Michael Jackson, but one of the things anyone would know is he loves Disney. And he loves video games. And he actually had this secret desire his whole life to just like do the music for video games. Not just like a secret desire, but like a vision for what music for video games should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And this led to, do you know anything about Michael Jackson's video game for the Sega Genesis?
The Moonwalker game?
Yes. Do you know anything about that? Released in the arcade with a different sound chip, released for the computer and released for the Sega Genesis.
Now, so I didn't know they actually released it. I know they made it, and when they made the Moonwalker, it was like there was a whole, it was based on it's like Smooth Criminal, whole album.
It had his white suit, and he attacked with magical music powers. Going, ha ha!
Yeah, I would attack with that. I would attack by grabbing my crotch. I would attack by getting on my tiptoes, which was amazing. And I would do that little arm thing, that little arm switch. I have never played Moonwalker, but I know he like dreamed of it for many years, and that his management team thought it was like ridiculous.
Yeah, they did not care for it, but just like he tried to buy Marvel so that he could play Professor X in the X-Men movies.
Yeah,
he really loved the video games. So the Moonwalker soundtrack had Another Part of Me, Bad, Beat It, Billie Jean, Smooth Criminal, Speed Demon, Thriller, and The Way You Make Me Feel.
Oh, The Way You Make Me Feel.
They were across different
those are multiple platforms. Albums, multiple years, and very different sounds. So I am not, my only video game is Frogger. We're very close. I do like a Sims, or like any sort of world building sort of games, but anything that requires coordination, it's really not for me generally.
Yeah,
have you played Moonwalker?
Yeah, this was more of a fighting game, where he would go through and fight bad guys.
It's like I'm picturing Street Fighter, but with Michael Jackson in which seems
more
like
of a final fight, which was a side-scrolling Street Fighter. But yes, and that's when he said, "You know what? I love Sonic the Hedgehog. I would love to be part of Sonic the Hedgehog." So he decided to make some songs. And let's see here. I changed the size of my window, and all of a sudden I lost where I was.
Wait, and do you know, I just want to say, when he would get an idea that he wanted to do something, he would call himself frequently and be like, hey, I would like to work on this. And also, do you know his voice was totally different? Like when people think
Oh yeah,
Michael,
yeah. He
they
had a
think
deep
Michael.
voice.
He had a totally deep voice. First of all, his name was Mike. And he'd be like, hey there, it's Mike Jackson. I want to talk to you about working on Moonwalker. That whole thing was it was a character. He played Michael Jackson, but that was not what Mike Jackson was like.
Lots of sounds like masking.
Right. Oh my God. Also, hard to talk about. I mean, so many things. I sound very happy about Michael Jackson. I understand, trigger warning. I know all the things. It's bad.
Yeah.
There is a lot of trauma there, and it is hard to separate trauma response and maybe even disassociation, even with video games and with Neverland. It's hard to separate that from what is almost certainly some sort of neurodivergence. He has to be. He's divergent something. He's physically divergent.
Thing. If you've ever seen Neverland, so part of the Moonwalker game, for those who don't know, Michael Jackson had a pet chimp named Bubbles, and in the Moonwalker game, Bubbles would turn into a mecha cyborg monkey and attack enemies. But a man who owns a chimpanzee, not really of the typical variety.
Right.
And he, again, it's kind of weird because, he at Neverland was filled with arcade games. He bought like life-size statues of the Power Rangers. He had, his house basically looked like mine if I had millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
But the downside
was you would have a giraffe.
Yeah, I would. That's
why not?
That's not off the table.
Yeah,
I'd like a menagerie of animals, including a giraffe and a monkey,
and a zookeeper, your own personal zookeeper.
Of course,
right?
But that's the thing. The downside was that because he, as Joe Jackson, his father, did not let Michael Jackson, have a childhood.
No.
So there was a lot of beatings going on throughout Michael Jackson's life that probably necessitated some therapy.
But yeah, and by the way, I also think, because I don't know if you know this, but autism is hereditary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And many people were not diagnosed and didn't have the tools to live like an actually authentic autistic life.
Yeah.
And so they were told they were wrong. And so not making any excuses for Michael's behavior or, God forbid, Joe Jackson's. But I'm going to tell you, my guess is Joe Jackson was also autistic.
Yeah. And every year
just and super fucked up.
Yeah.
Which is not okay.
Every year when I hear the Jackson 5 singing I Saw Mama Kissing Santa Claus, I picture Joe Jackson beating the shit out of Santa Claus.
He was.
Because, that's the kind of thing that would happen.
Yeah. It was bad. It was not good.
And again, that's probably why Michael Jackson kept the falsetto appearance up. Because, again, he was very famous when he was a child. And he kept that going because, like Taylor Swift, you're locked into this persona. You're locked into what makes you famous. So you want to keep that going as long as possible. So Mike Jackson, and again, it ties back to like Walt Disney, who had the Uncle Walt persona versus the Walt Disney persona. You got to put on this act for fame. And that is incredibly unfortunate because, Michael Jackson, but again, that's where like Macaulay Culkin said, yeah, nothing happened. Corey Feldman was like, yeah, stuff happened. So yeah, it's unfortunate in that.
It's not good.
And that's one of the reasons why Michael Jackson is not officially credited on Sonic the Hedgehog, because people say that let's see here. He did the staff role theme that became Stranger in Moscow. But he also worked on Knuckles theme, Hydro City Zone Act 1 and 2, Carnival Night Zone Act 1 and 2, and a few more. But
and it's interesting because if he wasn't credited, like he was probably just doing it for love.
Yeah. Well, there's also other reasons because he was. They say, number one, he did a lot of stuff. Like when he worked on The Simpsons, he didn't use his real name. Also, when he worked on The Simpsons, he didn't use his singing voice. He had a sound-alike sing because he wanted to play a joke on his brothers. But he didn't use his real name when he went on The Simpsons, and you can't see that episode anymore because of all the reasons. But he also didn't use his name on Sonic. At the same time, they also say that he was disappointed with the chip tune from the Genesis because they had to compress so much that he didn't get a good fidelity out of the cartridge.
Okay, then he would have like wanted his name off it. If there was something he didn't like about it, God help you.
Yeah. So he wasn't ever actually credited with Sonic 3. But that's when the allegations came out and Sega distanced themselves greatly from Michael Jackson. But this is also the reason why Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2 was available in many formats for many years. They had re-release after re-release after re-release on different platforms. Even on Apple, you can play Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2 on your iPhone, but you can't play Sonic 3. And music rights were a big part of this. So they eventually they changed the music that Michael Jackson worked on for Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. So later compilations, including like those on the Switch, have different compositions to avoid all of this. But it's a very, very interesting sidebar for someone who is probably autistic, but again, one of those problematic episodes. We here at the Autistic Culture Podcast like to try to keep upbeat. The world for our advocacy episodes kind of drags down a little bit. But we want to avoid talking about the people who are potential serial molesters.
Right.
So, but with that, we are going to take a break and then come back and talk about why Sonic the Hedgehog is so appealing to autistic people.
I want to know that. Okay, let's come back soon. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, this is Angela, and I have an incredible opportunity to share with you from friend of the pod and one of my favorite authors that I've had the opportunity to work with, Becca Lori Hector. Becca's book, Always Bring Your Sunglasses, is a heartfelt and honest look at life through the lens of an autistic adult, filled with insights, personal stories, and a heck of a lot of empowerment. And she is offering it totally 100% free to our listeners. All you have to do is visit alwaysbringyoursunglasses.com. That's alwaysbringyoursunglasses.com for a free copy of Becca's book.
We are back, and we are talking about why autistic people love Sonic the Hedgehog. And so this is one of those things. I have worked with autistic people for years and years and years. It is fascinating to me that whenever I work with people, we can bond over Sonic the Hedgehog. And I've known this for some time. But again, my son recently got into it and I brought it up. I shared some sort of article in our Facebook group, Autistic Connections, and everybody was like, of course people love Sonic the Hedgehog. Why would they not? And I went down a rabbit hole, hence this episode, because it is apparently incredibly well documented that autistic people love Sonic the Hedgehog. The downside is that a lot of that documentation is from ABA people.
Oh, wait, why? What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so this is the reason why if you go to our show notes, there's all sorts of show notes about the development, about Michael Jackson, about, all sorts of other neat stuff. But we are not going to be sharing the links to the ABA people because fuck ABA.
Ew, fuck those people.
So they are under the impression that, again, it's only autistic children who love Sonic the Hedgehog because, again, they don't understand
only
autistic adults.
children exist, right? And then we grow out of it, or on our 18th birthday or something, they take our card away. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Their main thing is that Sonic the Hedgehog is a special interest, which is ironic because do you know what Sonic's attack is?
No, what's Sonic's attack?
A spin.
I love it.
He gets into a ball and spins around real fast and then shoots off.
I didn't even think of it.
Because, it's the Sonic spin. So Sonic is a spin, a special interest.
Uh-huh.
So he is, but that's the thing. Okay, so there are years and years and years of lore in different continuities. So if you really wanted to get deep into Sat AM lore, because again, the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is about as deep as a children's pool. Not a lot of anything there. The video games are fun to play. There are a lot of high stimulation, a lot of stimming through lights and sounds. The music design is really good, hence why Michael Jackson wanted to
Michael
be a part of
Jackson.
it.
I see
So
it.
it's very, very stimmy. It's very, very immersive. It really sucks you into a monotropic flow state with that. But again, if you wanted to have a special interest, like the ABA people say, there's a lot of lore that goes along with that. So if you want to get into the Sat AM lore and all of the Archie comics, you got 24 years of lore to go through. And you get to talk about, the video games and the different timelines of the video games, the Sonic Generations game, when Dr. Ivo Robotnik decided that he would prefer to be called Eggman to reclaim that title from Sonic. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of depth that goes into the movies because Jim Carrey, probable autistic person, decided he was going to retire, but came out of retirement to do Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
Interesting.
Yeah, he joked that he did it for the money, but he puts a lot of effort into the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. I mean, you can tell when he's phoning it in. It's a very distinct difference because he talks about masking, ironic since he was the mask. He talks about the effort that it goes into being the Jim Carrey persona, but especially Sonic the Hedgehog 3, there's a lot of lore behind Gerald Robotnik, Dr. Ivo Robotnik's grandfather. And there is a lot of interplay between himself and himself. He got to do a lot of stuff on Sonic 3 that is right up his alley. So he was he had a very, very good time by all reports making the Sonic movies. So he's ready to come back for more. And Sonic the Hedgehog 4 is on the way with Amy Rose and Metal Sonic and all kinds of other stuff. But so anyway, there's a lot of stuff that goes behind this, but also the bright character designs, the easy recognition, the identification of big character traits, because Sonic is the free spirit, Tails is the gadget guy, Knuckles is the warrior, Amy Rose is the fangirl, Metal Sonic is a robot clone, and honest to God, Robot Hedgehog. Come on, it's fantastic.
It's perfect.
But and Dr. Robotnik / Dr. Eggman, I'm going to call him Robotnik until the day I die because I was born a long time ago. But he's got a frenemy situation going on with Sonic.
Right.
So there's lots and lots of reasons that autistic people love Sonic. And going by, I've included some of the autistic responses. There's lots of autistic people on YouTube who talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. There's one person who talks about, quote unquote, individuals with ASD without realizing that he has an autistic interest, or an autistic accent and a special interest.
Other people, not me.
Not him, yeah. But there's, again, lots of people on Reddit.
I want to go back. I want to get to the Reddit stuff, but I just want to go back. When I think of like Pokemon, autistic people being obsessed with Pokemon makes sense to me. And when I say obsessed, I just want to say, I don't mean that in the pathologizing way. I mean that in
the good obsession.
Yes.
The one that sucks in your soul and doesn't
yummy,
let go.
Delicious obsession. My favorite kind. But Pokemon, like I have played Pokemon Go quite a bit, but like I'm not even into video games, and I wanted to play it because I'm so fascinated. Every time I collected another Pokemon, I wanted to read all the things, and there's so much data there. Sonic doesn't, is it the spinning? Tell me some things that would make me get sucked into Sonic.
Well, number one, the bad guys are both robots and helpless animals that you have to free.
Okay, so we have justice sensitivity there, definitely.
Yes, because Sonic has to save all of the animals from being locked into mean robots. So every time you destroy a robot, a helpless little animal jumps away to freedom. So
Okay, I enjoy that. I could definitely see that being
yeah, so
very.
every time you go through a level, you save all of the animals. The animals are the levels are split between, again, very, very nature oriented and industrialist nightmare. So you have to save all the animals from an industrialist nightmare.
Okay.
Uh, it's very, very fast paced. So if you find, again, one of the things with a hyper connected brain
Yeah.
is that we often think faster than most people.
Mm.
So when you're spinning and going through loops and jumping and everything, it captivates our attention. The gameplay is really, really inducive to a flow state. And
Hmm.
we love our flow states. That's where our obsessions come from.
And then
So,
what about like the colors? And I even know, wasn't there a Sonic Colors? I think
yes.
we owned that. Is there something with like glimmers that you're getting glimmers through this
Oh,
with
very much
like
so.
the
I mean,
bright colors
it's
and
very, very pleasant to look at. Everything, and that's one of the high points of the Genesis, because before the Super Nintendo came out, the Super Nintendo has the finest pixel palette imaginable. I love pixel
mm,
art, especially like with the Super Nintendo palette. The Genesis doesn't quite have the palette, but it does. It was the first time that you could experience these bright, vivid colors.
yeah.
So it is very, very glimmer oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So just playing it is a very, very uh a sensory pleasant experience.
Mm-hmm.
And again, everything is predictable. The Sonic games really only have one button, jump.
Jump.
Yeah,
Right.
if you hold down and push the jump button really fast, you get the spin. And when he runs fast, he spins. And if you jump into enemies, he jumps and spins as he jumps. So you jump into enemies, you jump onto enemies, you jump over cliffs, you run through, and that's really the only control. You just have to one button, forward, backward, down, up. That's all you do. So it's very easy to get into that flow state because it's very predictable. You know what to do. If there's an enemy coming up, you jump over it, you jump through it. If there's a bridge, you got to jump over it before it collapses. If there's a spin tunnel, much like this, I won't push the button right now, but you
A
have
spin
the
tunnel.
loop de loop.
By the
You know
way,
that.
go to autisticculturepodcast.com if you want to see that on video. I'm not going to describe it to you. Haha.
Yeah, the video is available right now. So yeah, there's all sorts of predictability, but yet chaos. And this is the thing, because again, our arch nemesis is chaos, right? But when you
Mm-hmm.
collect all of the chaos emeralds, Dr. Robotnik is trying to unleash chaos on the world, and you have to stop him from unleashing the chaos. But if you collect the chaos emeralds, you become supersonic, and you get to move even faster. You become invincible. You get to do all of these things if you collect all of the chaos and you master the chaos.
Love it.
And also in the Dreamcast version, you get sort of Tamagotchi pet called a Chow, and the plural of Chow is Chows, spelled Chaos.
Hmm.
Chaos, Chows. But yeah,
Chow,
yeah,
chow. We
yeah.
we actually have we used to have a cat called Chaos,
Oh yeah.
and my stepson got us like a stuffed toy of Chaos, but he spelled it Chaos. And
That,
so
that's
that's
that's how you spell chaos.
no, instead of OAS,
Oh, oh, oh,
AOS.
oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so
Kwas?
it's, well, we call it Choaz. So that's like
Choas.
the spirit. Chaos has left us, but now we have Choaz. So,
Oh, there you go.
yes.
Yeah, but that's again, we are typically averse to chaos because we like to know what to expect. But Sonic is able to conquer that. And again,
Mm.
Eggman, Dr. Robotnik always does the same things. If you hit him 5 times, the machine explodes. Mario, you hit him 3 times, the machine explodes. That's a
Mm.
little bit of a difference, an upgrade there. But
Right.
it's easy to or it's easy to learn. It takes you a while to master, so you can get really, really into the flow state. It's brightly colored, easily identifiable. We relate to the justice sensitivity. And again, the lore. You've got all sorts of neat stuff with that. And again, for many years, I had an autistic kid, and I considered giving him this authentic 1993 Happy Meal display that I got from my local McDonald's because, again, I love Sonic the Hedgehog. And I was like, that is one Happy Meal display that I must have. So I bugged them
So I
every
was
week
gonna
until
say,
they gave it to me.
okay, yes. Please let us tell this story. When you see a Happy Meal display that you would like to purchase, do you literally harass the manager until they give it to you? Is that the technique?
It was mine. Uh,
I
I
love this for
I
you
act-
very much.
I actually have a collection of marketing material that because in my early days, I would harass the managers of literally every place so I could have their stuff. I've got an authentic ceiling hanger for the release of Super Mario World with Mario riding on Yoshi, made out of plastic that I got because I harassed the people at Kmart. I've got an authentic Donkey Kong Country standee from the first release of Donkey Kong Country because I harassed the people at Walmart. Again, I was that kid because I had everything on speed dial on a tiny little piece of paper that I kept in my wallet. I well, not speed dial because I kept a tiny little phone directory in my wallet, and I would call, I would show up, I would do everything possible to get the things that I wanted. So I have I've got a theater standee of Muppets Christmas Carol. Yeah.
You just always just ask? I didn't even know we were allowed to ask. Is this
Well-
because you're a boy? I
well,
think I didn't get the memo.
Ask is in quotation marks.
Okay.
Demanding is probably more accurate. Being a gigantic pain in the ass is probably the closest we'll get without saying, "God damn it, child, leave me alone." So,
Really?
yeah.
When
So,
did you get your first display?
oh man, what was my first display?
Really?
I don't know. It might have been Sonic. It might have been Super Nintendo. I don't know.
And
I've
you
got
just
a
realized?
Pepsi R2D2 Pepsi gigantic Pepsi display that they filled with ice and Pepsis. It now holds my stuffed animals. But I've got a ton of stuff. I don't know what the first one was.
Wow.
But yeah,
Okay.
my house again. If I had the millions of dollars Michael Jackson did, I would have my own zoo. But my house is an interesting house. So if there's any women in the autistic women in the
Would
Louisville
like
area who
would
is
you
very
like a
much
tour
yeah,
of Matt's house,
because
baby?
because again, not neurotypical, no pictures of me shirtless fishing, but man, the the life size Donkey Kong Country standee. If that's your jam, ladies, I got you covered. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's the thing. It allowed, especially the merch. You got immersed in that. There was a lot of stuff for you to collect, and I over my TV on my sound bar, I've got Funko Pop 8-bit versions of Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic, and my son loves those. When we saw them in the store, I was like, "Do you think I should pay $15 a piece for these?" And he said, "Need Sonic the Hedgehog toys," and he started putting them in the cart.
Need to, gonna
Yeah.
need these, Dad.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's one of those things. We just need it. So yeah, it's a delightful place. It's a simpler time back before we had to worry about concentration camps.
Yeah.
But again, Sonic liberates animals from concentration camps.
See,
So
I love that for them.
yeah, it's actually a very timely episode for me, especially if you watch the Sat AM show, because Sonic and the Freedom Fighters they break Sonic's uncle out of Dr. Robotnik's control right as he's turning Sonic's uncle into a robot. So he's got like a robot arm and a robot leg, and it's a lot of justice sensitivity stuff there too. So I encourage you to check out a lot of stuff. You can watch Sonic the Sat AM show on YouTube. I think you can find Sonic Underground there. Sonic Boom, I believe, is on Paramount. I'm not sure. I know the Knuckles show is on Paramount. But yeah, there's a lot of Sonic media out there to check out. There's a lot of Sonic comics to check out. There's a lot of Sonic games to play. There's like 30 Sonic games at this point. So
Wow.
I'm old school as they
Okay.
come because I just held up my Genesis that I had to disconnect in order to show it for
Because you still play it?
Yes. Of course, these days, I instead of dealing with cords for the controller, I've got wireless, authentic authentic Sega controllers.
Mm.
But they teamed up with 8BitDo a while back to make receivers for the Genesis. So you just plug in these wireless receivers, and with the authentic wireless Bluetooth Sega controllers, you can play any game on the Genesis wirelessly, as is my jam. So yeah, there is no school like old school.
All right.
So yeah, I believe that Sonic is indicative of our community. I believe that he speaks to us, and if you find any Sonic fan and offer them a chili dog, for some reason Sonic the Hedgehog loves chili dogs, and
Okay.
that is just a trademark thing of his. So here we go.
Love it.
So
Love
that
it so
said,
much.
what was your favorite part about being autistic this week, Angela?
Oh my goodness. Well, I did not play any Sonic all week, but I did go to the coolest art gallery, and I kept all their I was like, I'm going to go back here. I kept all their stuff, but
Oh,
now I
you
don't know
kept all
where
their art. I don't think that was
I
allowed.
did. No, I didn't keep their art, but it was so good. But anyway, my sister and I were in Fort Lauderdale, and on Los Olos there is an amazing art gallery with art for sale that's thousands of dollars that we're not going to buy, but it was like optical illusion art and like art made out of paint chips, like Marilyn Monroe made out of paint chips, and puns, like
Oh,
so many puns. There was one that was John Lemon. It was a lemon.
I
It
like
was
that.
John Lemon. It was really good. There were donuts that looked like donuts from the Simpson art. There was like a pile of money set on fire. There was so much good stuff. We love this place. We had a great time. Do you like an art? Do you like looking at an art? Yeah.
I
You and then
everything.
the
Yes.
thing about like my sister is like I don't know, we spent like 2 hours there talking about what we were seeing and what it reminded us of and other things we've seen.
I whenever you're in the States again, come by my house because I've got a lot of my art gallery up. And again, a lot of it is video game art, but I also have
Right.
art by autistic artists. And
Yes.
it's
I love
delightful.
that very much. Well, if you like art and you like talking about the art, then you will love the new podcast I found called the Good Art Friends Podcast.
Oh, very nice.
So they like our show. They are fans of our show. They have listened to our show, and
Oh,
they thought,
hello friends.
yes, these are our friends, Spencer and Jonathan. They are two neurodivergent. I think one of them is ADHD, one of them is autistic, but neurodivergent art friends that literally deep dive into a special interest into a piece of art. So this could be a movie, a book, an album, a video game, a comic book, or whatever other art thing. And then the first half of the episode is the spoiler-free conversation about why it moved them and what it is. And then they do all the spoilers. It's like time stamped where you could get to the analysis. So like they have a Phantom of the Opera episode for
Ooh.
me, Broadway girl. They have a Princess Bride episode. I
Oh.
feel like you would dig. It's
Uh,
really good. They've got Spider-Man, The Boy and the Heron, so
ooh.
many things. So if you go there and you guys scan through their backlog, you will find a piece of art that you know, and just tune in and you can hear two friends connecting over art. They will feel like your friends. It is the Good Art Friends podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast, but I'm going to link it in our show notes. So if you come to Autistic Culture Podcast, you can read our show notes and you will get the link there.
I like that.
So that was the thing I loved, art with my sister, and then finding the Good Art Friends podcast. That's what I loved about being autistic this week, and also this Sonic podcast, which was delightful. Thank you for bringing us this story, Matt.
Oh, I'm just glad to share the joy of Sonic the Hedgehog with the world because again, it's one of my earliest special interests, I didn't. Again, again, you can't see anything of my house, but what I show you here. But yeah, it is fascinating how the stuff that I loved as a kid never really went away. It just kind of stuck around, and what is now quote unquote nostalgia is also mainstream. So again, being a kid in the '90s, Sonic the Hedgehog was cool. Being a kid in the 2000s, the early 2000s. Sonic the Hedgehog was not cool, but Sonic the Hedgehog is back to being cool again. And now that I have a son who is very much into Sonic the Hedgehog, and I am able to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog lore with all of my clients and with my child and everything, it's pretty cool. So yeah,
I love it. Well, thank you for a great episode.
Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Autistic Culture Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to check out our advocacy episodes every Friday, where we explore important issues and share strategies for living your best, most authentically autistic life.
And for even more autistic culture, consider becoming a paid member for exclusive perks like Q&A calls live with Matt and I, a virtual writing circle, and our new self-defined living course by Becca Laurie Hector.
Fun fact, it costs us about $8 for every minute you hear or see us on the podcast, but our member pricing is just $8 a month. What a bargain! Buy one, get 500 free. Seriously, if you could afford it, we would really appreciate your contribution. It makes this all possible.
And of course, the best way everyone can support what we're doing here is to rate, review, share, and subscribe on Substack or your favorite podcast app.
This is the way.